Okay. I know Mr. Livingston speaks for a group. And okay, if we can work that out, if you guys could just like stay on the sidelines, and we'll try to go through this. Mr. Livingston, I'll let you start first. Everybody's name that's here is a lot, and Mr. Olson couldn't pronounce most of them to begin with, but we will assure you that it will get into the record as to what your position was and as to what the right, Madam Secretary? So we will assure that that will happen. Mr. Livingston.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Brian Livingston. I'm the Executive Director of the Arizona Police Association. I represent 22 independent associations and count among our membership approximately 9,500 members. We are also closely aligned with many citizens groups throughout the state, totaling tens of thousands. I was very interested in the speaker's comments. I was very interested in the other, Mr. Yarborough's comments as well. I found it uniquely fascinating that we quote national statistics and not Arizona, because that's what we're dealing with. The fact of the matter is, the only pension system in this state that is on the verge of collapse is yours. And that's yours. The PSPRS system is not on the verge of collapse. It does not require an emergency action by this state. But for some reason, we have decided that it needs an emergency action. I was fascinated by Mr. Hacking's comments that one of the driving forces for change was the DROP program. And he just clearly illustrated to you that DROP holds pretty much insignificant impact to our systems. But it's been a rallying cry for everybody who can reach a media outlet. And now we look at the basis of the fund. We say, you've said, from hearing me before, and I don't want to repeat myself, Mr. Chairman, that this is good in the long term. I suggest to you that very few know my profession, or the profession that I left, or the profession of the men in this room, because you've never walked in our shoes. Because one thing that brings us to the table is not an exorbitant salary, though we get paid well. What brings us to the table is a promise that if I am willing to die for you and your dollars and your families, you will have our back. You will make sure that we are comfortable. My family is protected. That I'm willing to go into this hostile environment for you or for your neighbors, and you will be there. 1609 tells me Elvis has left the building, and this legislature is now Elvis. I have looked at the amendments that have been proposed. Mr. Fillmore, thank you. Because you are the only one in this legislature who has heard us. You are the only one that has truly considered what we have offered to help this system in the long run. For all these people who said we've had great stakeholder meetings, hogwash. Hogwash. The meetings we had in the Senate were held over several weeks, and all we got in reply was, thank you for your comments, let's move on. The meetings that we had with the Speaker consisted of one 20-minute session. That's a stakeholders meeting. That's what we consider employee input. I will tell you now, my members are discouraged with the effects this will have on veteran recruitment, this new bill. Because you realize after April 30th, if we adjourn at that time with this emergency clause, veterans will no longer be allowed to cash in their time and to buy into our system. Buying into this system by a veteran costs nothing. Because they are they're using their money to buy the time they would have paid into the system anyway if they were employed by the system, but we are cutting off. No, we are eliminating an avenue for veterans to look at public safety. Because they look at us and say, I have already served my country. I have paid my dues to this nation, and now I want to pay my dues to this state. What you just told me, what I served in my country or for my country, no longer matter after April 30th. As a veteran myself, thank you. We are discouraged what this bill does to retirees. We are discouraged what it does to the families of our fallen officers. And most of all, we are discouraged what it does to those fallen officers' kids. I took the bullet, but I'm lucky. My family suffered, but you were there for me. But I must proclaim to you now that I will tell my police officers never to go into harm's way without backup. Do not take that extraordinary effort to move forward because you will no longer be there. Wait for the backup. Don't take that extraordinary measure because the state has left the building. I am even more concerned that you are requiring the current and those retired officers to bear the burden of this legislation. And we did not come to this session without a proposal ourselves. We offered a means to get there. And God bless Representative Fillmore because his provisions are part of ours. But nobody else wants to listen.